A very good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the session of the CCA Convention Roundtable. Today, warm welcome to everybody to another virtual seminar, virtual online meeting that we all have, and I'm sure we will all feel much better if we would do these sessions in a face-to-face session. Unfortunately, but at the same time, very pleased to be able to host today this session online and allow everybody to have a good discussion about a very exciting topic. Now, before I go and talk about all of that, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Peter Lovren, I work with Capita, and I've spent probably the absolutely greatest part of my career in customer service and customer experience. When I started, that it wasn't called customer experience, we still talk about customer services. And I'm really pleased, like I said, to do a bit of predictions today and a discussion around that, which I'm not going to do on my own, but I'm really pleased to introduce two other panel members who are going to help us in seeing if we can predict the future in the world of customer experience. So let me first introduce you to both Federico De Valles and Stu Dorman. Federico, can I ask you to introduce yourself and for today?
Thank you, Peter. It's a pleasure to work with you. Hi, everyone. I'm Federico De Valles, ICT industry analyst with Frost & Sullivan CX team. Frost & Sullivan is a research and consulting firm based in Santa Clara, California. I look after the research projects covering the European CCAS and CX outsourcing services market. We do some market analysis around the market trends, market drivers, restraint, market size, benchmarking, between the different companies in the industry. And again, thank you for the invitation.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Federico. And we understood that you're joining us from the other side of the world. Is that correct?
Sorry, yes. I'm based in Buenos Aires, in Argentina. It is a global world, right? The headquarters of Frost & Sullivan are in California. I'm working from Buenos Aires, but still I'm working for the London office. So I think that's how we call a real globalized world, right? We're everywhere.
So it's a warm good morning to you in this specific case. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm still with my coffee. I hope that's not a problem. It's a little bit early here. But all right, it's important to wake up early.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Federico. We'll come back to you in a minute. Stu, good afternoon to you. I think we're on the same continent.
We're definitely in the same time zone. Yeah, thank you, Peter. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here today. My name's Stuart Dorman. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at Sabio, and I spend most of my time really thinking about how innovation and technology are going to impact the world of customer experience. I do that, for Sabio and speak to a lot of our clients about it. So yeah, really looking forward to the discussion this afternoon.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much, Stu. Good. So before we go into the topic, just a bit of household, how we're going to run the session. Like I said, we'll start with a presentation by Federico, who has an informed view, like I said, about what the future is going to be like, what the current trends are. So we'll go through that. And then I hope that we can go through as many challenging questions and comments and facts as possible in the next small hour. And at the same time, everybody in the audience obviously extremely welcome to put questions in the Q&A or comments or challenges. I can see them on my screen. I'll do my utmost to bring them into the discussion as well. So please, at any time, if you strongly agree, strongly disagree, or want to hear more about the topic, I'll discuss a bit more, just put it in the chat and we'll, like I said, we'll bring it into the discussion for today as well. We might do a little poll, so make sure you keep your hands on the buttons as well, but let's see how the discussion evolves. That's the plan for today. Like I said, we'll be done before 3 o'clock. So that's from a timing perspective how we will run today. Good. On to the predictions, and I'm sure we all have had many discussions about the impact of COVID-19 on our business, on our lives over the last years. I'm sure we've had a lot of potentially issues, inconvenience, or maybe even people enjoying the lack of travel. It has all, I'm not saying anything new, that it had a big impact in our life. In the session today, we're not going to look back. We're not going to see what the impact was, but we're going to, like I said, trying to predict what this means for customer experience in a post-pandemic world. That is not to say that we would believe that the post-pandemic world is already here. We constantly talk about the back to normal. And the first question is obviously, what is that new normal? For the UK, for those who live in the UK, hopefully at the end of July, the last restrictions will be lifted as well. And politicians talk about it back to normal. What is that new normal? And what does it mean for our customers? What experience are they looking for? Is it exactly the same? Have they picked up new habits, new expectations from all that we have gone through in the last, let's say, 15 months? So it's a prediction, and I think that is a very exciting topic to debate. Now, on that topic, Federico, can I ask you to share some of the slides that you have prepared and some of the research that you have done to see if there's anything that we can talk about?
Sure. Can everyone see my screen, I guess? So in the last year, we were surrounded by the uncertainty of created by COVID, and we really didn't know what was going to happen. Today, the picture is a little bit more, let's say, clear, and I want to dig deeper in that, in what we're expecting for the future, what we think CX in a post-pandemic future will be like. But first, let's take a very quick look on where the European contact center market stands today. I mean, the European contact center market, or CX market, continues to expand steadily. Besides that, lockdowns have forced companies to implement new sales and customer service strategies, hugely increasing demand for technological solutions. Most European businesses have developed a solid understanding of the benefits of improving the customer experience. Also, cloud technology has revolutionized the delivery of CX functionality. Businesses have been steadily migrating to the cloud to improve their contact centers. There are many factors driving this migration. One of them is implementation of remote workforce models, also the higher reliability and scalability they bring. Today, the European contact center industry is being disrupted and transformed as customer interactions shift quickly from traditional channels to digital channels. And as the nature of the customer interactions continues to evolve during and in the aftermath of the pandemic, companies in the contact center space are quickly adopting new technologies to maximize value for their customers. The market has also experienced a shift to multi-tenancy. Multi-tenant solutions tend to be more responsive, stable, and better suited to rapid scaling, while improving affordability and resource utilization. And this last thing is particularly important in Europe, given the large number of small and medium-sized contact centers. A last point I want to bring refers to the recovery from the pandemic. Even though the commencement and speed up of vaccination program, strong rebounds in consumer demand, and that service sector recovery is showing early promise, there are still multiple fresh outbreaks and lockdowns extensions, and this is likely going to push full recovery beyond 2021. To better explain where the market stands today, I want to show you some outcomes from Frost & Sullivan's European Decision Makers Survey. Our data points out the key digital transformation objectives that have been prioritized as a result of the pandemic. And these are adapt to new workforce modes, enhance e-commerce capabilities, and improve CX. We found that improving customer experience and satisfaction is a top priority for most companies in the region, even in terms of the pandemic, or let's say in this way, especially in pandemic times. But what are the expectations for the future? What are European decision makers projecting and thinking will happen? First, we asked these business leaders, what will their organization focus on over the next 2 years after the pandemic? And the majority responded that organizational priorities are digital channels and new technologies. The shift to the digital space is nothing new for us, but there is a clear acceleration in the number of customer journeys, or at least parts of the customer journeys that occur on digital channels. I think that success stories like Amazon, Twitter, Netflix that have placed digital customer journeys at the core of their business strategy is pushing other large corporations and even middle-sized companies to follow the same path. This slide shows the expectation of business leaders about the rate of agents working from home. The majority of businesses will have more than 50% of their workforce working from home next year. As with all businesses, contact centers have faced unprecedented obstacles this past year. With remote work, peer support has been partially lost. Managers can walk around to see how agents are performing, and remote training has proven difficult without the right technologies on hand. Having agents deal with sensitive data when they work from home without the security measures has been particularly problematic as well. And of course, creating and managing COVID-19 protocols has been challenging for those needed to be on site. But if we look at the bright side of things, generally speaking, remote workers are performing better. Attrition rates are declining or maybe declining. And remote requires also a higher level of security, which in the end is driving the demand for better processes and new technologies. So what else can we expect for the future? I will now explain or present some projections we have at Frost & Sullivan. One is this idea of preparing your contact center for whatever happens next. No? The COVID-19 crisis is expected to leave a strong and almost permanent impact on how employees and employers perceive remote work. I think that the stigma of working from home is gone for good, and hybrid workplaces will be the expected normal. We think that a hybrid workplace is not only an arrangement or a model where employees come to the office occasionally and complete, for example, the rest of the tasks by working from home, but it's also this idea that offices will be no longer mere productivity centers. Instead, they will serve as sites for employee engagement, collaboration, and relationship building. The office or even the contact center will be the space where we interact with colleagues, where we leave our individual and family space to connect with people from work. The hybrid workplace is also granting some benefits, let's say, to an ever-growing remote workforce. It's reducing operational cost, it's helping employees economically by reducing their commuting cost, and it's increasing their productivity. And I think that in relation to this last point, at least at Frost & Sullivan, we believe that remote work will be marked by its productivity and efficiency. Employees will gain flexibility, they will gain also time savings and work-life integration, but also high personal KPIs and efficiency expectations. Individual KPIs might be the way businesses will have to control employees. Hybrid work will also require seamless technology enablement in 2 locations. So, for example, offices will include more meeting rooms and collaborative spaces. Businesses will also require proper workforce optimization or intraday management tools. Managers will have to incorporate certain degree of flexibility to organizations, and remote agents will need easy to use enterprise-grade tools, but all must be integrated into one. And these hybrid models also mean that the recruitment process will completely change and that the typical contact center agent will also be different. We're expecting better qualified, cross-skilled agents, let's say, trained to be effective rather than efficient. In terms of adapting your business processes, COVID-19 has shortened decision cycles, and we expect this to remain after the pandemic. Before, CX-related decisions were mostly made based on abundant insights and performance metrics, but emergency forced managers to take quick decisions without enough information. So CX departments learned that short decision cycles are necessary to better dodge certain market fluctuations. Today, having the ability to take and implement decisions quickly is mission critical for all businesses, regardless of their size and location. Also, we expect further automation, higher demand for self-service solution, and further acceleration of the cloud. Frost & Sullivan survey found out that 80% of CX applications are expected to be in the cloud by 2023. The higher adoption of these technologies is related to a change in our perception of the meaning of business continuity. Until recently, most companies thought of business continuity as strictly an IT initiative to ensure data centers and critical operations would survive a service interruption. Today, it means much more than that. The goal is to enable work from anywhere, so that internal and external operations can continue without interruption, regardless of what's going on, for example, in the outside world. The COVID-19 pandemic is probably the most evident example of why business continuity is so important, but we learn that weather events, travel alerts, or even social movements can all upset the normal course of business. So business continuity is not anymore about foreseeing that something can be wrong, but rather the idea of having an enough robust and flexible organization that can deal with whatever happens. Also, that security and network reliability will become the most critical factors in delivering excellent CX. I mean, companies will need to re-engineer most CX processes, but this re-engineering won't be about controlling individual agents working from home, but for example, ensuring security to the end customer somehow, for example, through automation of payments or by taking payments out of agents working from home. Also that because every middle and big-sized company has invested in CX at some point in the last month, and when I say this, I refer to, I know, a new CCA solution or analytics or chatbots or intraday management or video channels, because this investment is already made, they will have to complement it with further technological deployments or directly by transforming their customer service organizational processes to maximize investment and close the loop. Almost every company will necessarily implement a defined CX strategy for automation and technology. Another point to consider is that contact centers will be more prepared for sudden volume changes through the consolidation of AI and RPA-powered tools. Probably you all experienced extreme volume fluctuations last year with some difficulties in sustaining or ensuring the delivery of proper CX. As a small warning here, customers will not tolerate any more outdated technology or poor CX even during critical moments. So we will necessarily have to focus on removing friction in customer journeys and will be or should be more prepared for the emergence of unexpected externalities. The COVID-19 has accelerated a shift to digital. While I think that some shopper habits may get back to normality, many will become even more mixed with digital. And I think an important point to consider is that digital activities are easier to record, to capture and measure than live physical interactions. And this is creating huge opportunities for businesses to get deeper, richer, and complex information about their customers, about their brand and the market. And the emergence of digital customer journeys analytics tools is providing businesses the opportunity to get a complete view of all customer interactions across mobile and web so that they can create frictionless and enhanced digital customer journeys. Finally, and with this I will close, the increase in the number of smartphones and other connected cameras, devices with cameras, and millennials growing as a consumer segment and lockdowns experiences that force us to use, for example, collaboration tools just like this. I think it's increasing or driving the demand for visual communication, and that this will increase rapidly. Rich visual engagement and content sharing, for example, in tools like screen sharing or co-browsing or video chat, are progressively complementing or replacing traditional audio and chat-only interactions, and we are seeing a very promising future for this visual segment in contact centers over the next 5 to 10 years. I think that we can say that the only certainty today is uncertainty, right? But organizations can be ready for a period like this if they establish, for example, clear objectives. This means ensuring CX no matter what happens. If they incorporate the adequate technologies, such as migrating to the cloud, if they automate processes, if they implement proper KPIs to agents and innovative training methods that relate well to new workforce models, if they keep the relationship with technology partners, such as integrators, such as contact center solution vendors and outsourcers, and understand that flexibility and hybrid models, in every sense I mean hybrid, are here to stay and embrace. Thank you.
Excellent. That is very interesting, Federico. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. And also, let me applaud you on being very brave of predicting the future. I mean, there's always people who surely have a different opinion about what the future will look like, and that's actually my hope for the next, let's say, half an hour as well, that there's some opposing views. I mean, I think a lot of things that you touched upon have been part of our discussion. What does it mean for working from home and for employees, but also yeah, a definite increase in reliability of technology, use of technology. And Stuart, I mean, I hope you share my view that this was very interesting research. Do you have a similar view, similar experience as well, that technology will indeed play a different role going forward in defining and delivering a customer experience?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, one of the things that we've seen over the last nearly 18 months now, certainly last year, with since the start of the pandemic, is this great digital acceleration, this massive change in behaviours, in the way that we all communicate with each other, as we're doing now, the way that we communicate with our friends and family, and obviously the way we communicate with organisations. And there's no doubt that's here to stay. And the way I kind of think of it, almost as if it's the classic kind of adoption curve. If you've got your innovators and your early adopters, people like me, people probably like you, a lot of people here that will be really up for embracing digital channels and engaging with organisations in new ways. And at the other end of the curve, you've got your laggards or your late adopters, and we all know who they are as well, maybe our parents or grandparents or whatever. And they were the people that were sort of sticking to the old ways of doing things, picking up the phone, going to the shop on the high street. Now they have been forced to, to engage in digital channels. They've had to do that over the last year or so. So, and in doing so, they've had this crash course in digital, technology, and largely speaking, it's worked really well. So, they're the people I think that really are going to, shift their behaviour and change. And equally, organisations that sat behind that and now having to force to cater for those people that were the early adopters and the innovators, and that they're having to, catch up and engage with people through digital channels. So yeah, there's no doubt that it's changed, and I think we'll just continue to see this acceleration even as we go back to normal.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Stuart. If we stay with you for a minute, so automation, self-service, new channels, is that actually, in your view, really improving the customer experience? Mm-hmm. Or is it, let me just be slightly provocative here, is it just a way of saving cost in the future, making it more, consistent, for lack of a better word? Yeah. So is it truly all the opportunities that we have, especially if we get that vast majority that you told about on the digital roadmap, will it definitely improve the customer experience, or is it just a better way of saving cost?
I think it's both, really. I mean, there's no doubt that lots of simple transactional types of inquiries that we all have when we engage with an organization are quite often better served through, digital channels or through what we call automation. And I think some of the newer technologies that we're seeing now, AI, is a classic one that I'm sure we've all heard a ton about over the last 12, 24 months. For me, it just creates a much more friendly user interface, a conversational user interface, which actually makes it easier for customers that aren't so skilled or, in digital channels to be able to solve their problem quickly without the need to speak to a human. But is that service, if I'm transacting with someone, if I'm getting my balance, is that true service? Probably not. True service for me is creating a wrapper around that. And often that will involve a human and delivering a value add, allowing a customer that maybe needs a bit of reassurance or needs a bit of a service wrapped around it. They need the expertise of the person to speak to understand and solve their problem. That really, for me, is where true service sits. And if you can start to take away the transactions, the simple stuff, and allow humans to focus on the service, the real value add stuff, then I think that's the role that automation, digital channels, AI will play in the future. And I don't think it's binary either. It's not either digital or human. What we really need to think about is ways in which we can leverage those technologies, which more often than not will be the initial touch point that the customer has to start their journey, and then seamlessly bring in a human, blended into that journey, whether that be through, starting with a chatbot or a voice bot, or maybe through a screen, seamlessly bringing the human in to deliver that extra service wrap over and above digital. And it's the blend of those together, I think, that's the right, approach for organizations that are looking to embrace this.
Yeah. I definitely agree about the balance, and I personally, but I'm probably not a youngster in this day and age, but I'm definitely one of those individuals. If I have a real issue, I like to speak to a human being. So I'm always a little bit concerned if you talk about a fully automated world, a fully automated customer interaction. If we go back to Frederic, what's your view on this? Do you think we're trending towards a fully automated or much larger scale automated customer interaction in the future, and indeed will that improve the customer experience, or will people indeed, we just said, stay always very keen to speak to a warm voice?
Well, we're definitely seeing more and more customer interactions that are completed, for example, resolved from start to completion by a chatbot. But our numbers tell us that, one, we are far from a fully automated scenario. I'm working right now on Frost & Sullivan's European CX outsourcing research, and we're asking the same question, right, about the percentage of interactions completely resolved by a chatbot. And although I don't have yet a definitive number, in most cases, outsourcers are providing or one-digit values, or maybe, depending on the company, something in between 20%. These numbers will probably increase. I mean, there is some consensus that they will increase, but we are not there yet. But of course, there is some consensus that we will go to a further automated scenario. I think also that there are other types of automated processes that we can also expect to increase over the next years around intraday management, agent recommendation engines, routing systems, MyTVR. Yet for me, the human element is still vital and will continue to be like this in the future. Again, data shows that customers prefer to solve urgent issues by calling for support rather than use other channels. So I don't think that the human element will disappear. In times of high anxiety, customers will call or prefer to speak with a human agent. And I think there is still room in the future for human live interactions and even for mistakes in an undoubtedly highly automated scenario.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Let me just quickly pause our discussion there and point everybody in the audience at our Q&A. Again, there's a chat possibility. So if I don't ask the questions or if the topic doesn't come up that you'd like to see us being discussed, please put it in the chat bot and not the chat bot, sorry, the chat. I'm talking about the chat bot, but this is not a automated chat. We will actually discuss it live here in this session. So please do that. And to get us all actively involved in discussion, maybe it's nice to do a short poll. And ask everybody in the audience to see what their opinion is on that similar question. Here you go. In your opinion, will customer service be fully automated in the future? So in your opinion, will it all be automated in the future? Yes or no? And please vote what your view is. It's an interesting question, obviously, while you all click on your preferred choice. I mean, this is a discussion topic that is, I think, already going on for a couple of years, and I think we can all agree that the pandemic outbreak last year has clearly changed our views, or I mean, the customer behavior as well. So I'm really interested to see what the outcome of this poll is. There you go. Oh, very clear.
That was pretty.
That's a very good.
There is consensus.
Yeah, and it's interesting that a lot of the hype, if you like, around particularly AI, you know, there's been such a lot of information about it, a lot of press about it, and a lot of the tech vendors got very excited about what the possibilities of AI are, and I think that drove a lot of this, this consensus, if you like, or this hype around customer service being one of the first sectors to be fully automated. But the reality is, there's a really, really strong place and a great business case for that technology, but completely automating it, no, I don't think so.
Excellent. Good. Okay. Excellent. Thanks for that, and thanks audience for your clear view. So I got a question. Let me just quickly go there. Chat is increasing in the future. I've got a question from James. For Federico mentioned that chat is increasing in the future. Are there examples of companies who have used that video chat and improved the customer experience output? Okay. Federico, can we start with you on that question?
Yes, sure. Well, definitely chat is more used right now in the contact center, but still, I would say voice is a prime channel and will continue to be like this over the next 10 to 15 years. The good thing of chats is that it enables to handle larger volumes of inbound interactions and larger volumes of interactions in general, and that sometimes, what companies are telling us is that they understand that end customers or end users, they prefer to chat. They don't want to speak if there's no urgent issue, and that it's improving customer experience. Yet, I don't think that Prime will be left aside for the next years, and I think that chats so far should be a complementary channel, which is necessary, especially, for example, when we are going to a more, let's say, digital world, when digital is becoming a more important part or a more important scenario of customer journeys. And there is some kind of like mix between this idea of chat through chatbots or even through an agent by those tools embedded into a website or into a mobile app. And I think that there is a huge opportunities for companies there to improve their customer experience, to create a new channel to communicate with customers, and customers really appreciate that. But I'm not seeing, at least in the next years, any kind of replacement of chat over voice as a main customer channel, at least in Europe.
Yeah. And if we zoom in specifically on the video chat, so clearly.
Oh, video. Sorry. I thought you were speaking about chat, not video chat. Well, definitely what we are seeing right now, there is a rise of visual engagement interactions. And particularly with COVID, there was a huge, massive increase of the use of video chat. For example, I was speaking with a couple of vendors, and they told me that NHS was implementing video chat, to facilitate, for example, making some appointments or even connecting doctors with the citizens. So we're seeing with the patients, and we're seeing a higher use of any kind of visual communication. And for the first time, we're seeing that the introduction of visual engagement tools, and with visual engagement, again, I refer to video chat. I refer to other kind of visual interactions like co-browsing or screen sharing. I'm not sure if everyone knows what that means, but co-browsing basically is the ability to share your screen, your browser that is of your computer or even your mobile app with an agent. So the agent can see exactly what's happening in your screen, and the agent can support you with any technical or any customer service need. We're seeing a much higher use also, even of screen annotation, the ability of, for example, an agent being able to annotate something in the customer screen, and that's helping a lot, CX processes. And we're expecting a higher integration of, for example, of these type of tools in contact center solutions. I know of many major players, which I'm not sure if I can name here right now, but many major players in the European market that are actually acquiring this type of solutions or integrating their solution with this type of capabilities to offer this to their customers. Especially we're seeing a higher growth in the financial services sector of this type of video chat. And yes, I think we all agree that we'll see higher use of visual technologies in the future. Thank you.
Stu, do you have any particular views on that from a technology point of view? Do we see that video chat is used a lot in the UK? Or
no, I'd agree with, I totally agree with Federica. I think we need to broaden our thinking about video chat really beyond, us communicating and being able to see each other. Because one of the things that we've learned, particularly over the last year, is the power of being able to communicate with pictures as well as with our voices. And, we can share content as we've done now with the presentation, and a picture paints 1,000 words. And, voice is incredibly hard to explain to a customer, the complexities of a product or, the different options that they have around a different service. Maybe it's a bit of insurance, maybe it's a mobile phone contract or something like that. Really hard to do that just using your voice. If you can suddenly bring an image up and talk the customer through it, immediately it becomes much more powerful, it becomes faster. The customer understands more and first contact resolution rates go up, etc. So I agree with Federica. I think that's where we should think about video in the context of customer service. We don't always need to, and we don't always want to see the person that we're speaking to if it's completely anonymous and we've never met them before. But them being able to share their screens with us is incredibly powerful. So I think that's where we're going to see the development of this technology going forward.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, James, for the question. I hope that helps you. Let me move on to the next topic in CX predictions. We talked about technology and which direction that could go. If we talk about the customers, so everybody's seen that they have been exposed to more digital channels as a need, and probably that drove the change as well. We've been open to a lot of new things in normal life: face mask, queuing, 1.5 meter distance, which now seem all quite normal, if we're really honest. Right? Still might feel a bit awkward, but it's quite a normal part of our common life. In the customer experience arena and the customer expectations, what do I expect from a brand to deliver? How do I want to be treated? I mean, that is a constant, let's say, changing topic as well. Now, if you purely look at that customer expectation, how do I want to be serviced by a brand? What does it mean for me? Not purely technology, but simply, is there a different level of expectations? Is there a different level of customer experience desired, let's say, over the next 24 months? Right? Stuart, Frederic, anyone wants to go first on this one? Open question.
Yeah, happy to go first. I think one of the maybe the mistakes, if you like, that we've made as an industry over the last 2 or 3 years is this illusion, if you like, or this desire to offer a customer any channel at any time to do any task, and this whole omni-channel dream that everyone's been pursuing. And I personally don't think that's right. I think what we need to think about is the power of each of the different types of communication tools that we have at our disposal to communicate with customers. So as an example, messaging, it doesn't really matter whether it's WhatsApp or WeChat or, iMessage or, whatever it is, any sort of chat tool. The fact is it's an asynchronous channel, and there are clearly benefits there. It allows customers to communicate at their own pace. We can deliver information to them. So it's really powerful at doing some things, but it's not very powerful at doing other things. If the customer wants to have a conversation, probe, ask a few questions, it's actually quite laborious typing all these things out, particularly on a mobile phone. So then voice becomes a better channel to do that. And as we just talked about, adding visual communications and video to some context, that's another set of capabilities. So I think what we need to think about is designing experiences for customers that allow them to, have access to those channels, but use them at different points in their journey or use them for different tasks that they're looking to solve. And really the art of it is just making sure that we deliver a consistent experience and we provide the customers with those tools to use based on what they want to do, and just deliver an appropriate level of service off the back of it. So making sure that we're there, making sure that the journey from the channel, from the touch point through to the human is seamless, making sure that the human that's dealing with the interaction has information at their fingertips to solve the problem. So for me, expectations for customers are really just, I want good service, but I don't necessarily need all these different channels, WhatsApp and everything else. I just need to, maybe send you a message if it's a quick inquiry, or maybe if I've got something that I really want to speak about, I need to pick up the phone and know that it's answered straight away. Or maybe if you want to share something with me, you can switch on a digital channel and walk me through, a product, a complex product. So for me, that's what we need to think about delivering as organizations.
Mm-hmm. And Frederick, if I go to you, if I just add on to that question, the topic of personalization. So clearly customers always feel that they need to be treated as personal as possible, but at the same time we quickly touch upon the boundary of privacy. So if I just, one of my personal examples, if I get in my car with my mobile phone on me and then they connect automatically, and my phone will recognize that in the car and predict where I'm going based on my earlier travels. I'm sure many of us have had that in the past. I get in the car and that will tell me I'm driving to this location where I normally on Saturday morning drive to, let's say, for football with my son. That always feels a bit like, wow, great. How do they know this? And fantastic that we can do this. But at the same time, you feel this a little bit of uncomfort saying, well, are you supposed to know this? And are you following me? The big brother, obviously, from the previous century, that whole thought of thread. How do you think customers will develop, and again, specifically around customer expectation of good service, around the topic of personalization and privacy? Frederick, do you have a view on that?
Well, it's a very interesting question. I would say that, for example, customer expectation right now in Europe, I think that we can place them in 3 different areas. One is personalization, right? According to our research and surveys, an estimated 3 out of 4 end users are more likely to purchase based, from an organization that offers personalized services based on their individual preferences. And in this case, for example, having clean and proper data sets, know the record, history of the customer, and everything related to previous interaction, I think is vital. Also, this idea of, as Tua Leavitt said, being there, having flexible organization with omnichannel capabilities, right? This idea of customers being able to communicate through different channels with companies and everything follows everything like one continuous single conversation. But the last point is exactly what you are just touching base right now, which is this idea of data management, of data security and privacy, right? And for me, I think this is a major role right now. We are seeing an issue for businesses right now. I mean, in the last years, it has become easier and cheaper for businesses to collect and analyze customer data. And although I think this is an important enabler of CX personalization, as we just mentioned, there are also rising concerns about how data is used by companies, and there's a strong desire for secure data management, transparency, and choice, right? Particularly Europe and in the UK, companies, I think they need to ensure that they also provide the right tools that can match public expectations around security and privacy. In this sense, I'm saying, for example, an interesting, quite innovative movements from some companies, or for example, using cookieless solutions, or trying to make their apps a little bit more, let's say, cookieless and things like that. But yes, there need to be a proper, I think, balance between this idea of providing personalized services and also ensuring proper data management, privacy, and data security to end users. And this, I think, Europe is heading the race towards this, this idea of privacy and data security. The US, for example, is behind Europe, but I think it's not enough. There's still a constant idea of improvement and working towards creating more secure environments. And something that we need to consider, I think, it's that right now, as most agents are working from home, what do we do with them? I mean, how do we strike, or how do we get high security standards or privacy standards when we cannot control totally agents like before? And I think that's why this idea of maybe taking payments out of agents working from home or automating payments are things that we should start considering for the future, because we'll have some challenges towards creating a very secure environment if half of our workforce is working from home.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much for that. And for my following questions, which leans really nicely into the working from home topic, let's look at that from two angles. First, from the customer side, and then from the people side. And hopefully we'll have a few minutes left then to talk about the economy and all around customer experience as well. And I really would like to ask this question obviously to panelists, but also to everybody in the audience. And please just drop your answer in the chat. If you see working from home, like I said, very known concept right now. We just saw your numbers as well, Federico, that this is probably going to stay. So maybe in a bit more balance and hybrid forms. And I'm sure everybody in the industry will have a similar kind of view on this. And when we all started this, there was a bit of let's say unprofessionalism. I'm not sure if that's a word, but to it. Hey, you could, if you would call your brand, you could hear people in the background, you could hear kids in the background. There was even a message on the IVR. Sorry, I'm working from home. You might hear some noises that you normally not do. You might hear a dog. That was very well accepted, but potentially going forward, the customer experience could change. And the charm of that will be taken away by annoyance. Do we all believe that this is something that we're going to face, that people will expect an absolutely similar experience working from home, or will it continue to be humane? And especially if you think about the previous question about video chat, that potentially you can see in somebody else's living room or study office. So the working from home and customer experience impact, how will that evolve? Frederic, you're still on screen. Let me start with yourself.
Sure. Well, that's a really interesting question, and it's something that we are all asking ourselves. I think that we'll have some, let's say, period of grace in which we will get used to and in which we will accept certain mistakes in the services. But in the long run, I think businesses will have to find a way to ensure an excellent CX, because in the end, right now, CX is becoming one of the key differentiators for businesses. And for that, I think they will need to, for example, implement flexible organizations. They have to implement and invest in proper technologies to enable, for example, visual engagement interactions with customers. They will have to implement proper workforce models and intraday management tools. They will have to enhance the security capabilities, and of their networks. So I think that on the long run, there is some kind of pressure on businesses to increase and enhance the on the technology side, and invest in technologies to enhance the customer experience. Because in the end, I think that customers will demand excellent customer experience, no matter if the agent is working from home or is working from an office. And But yes, I think there is still room for certain adjustments and mistakes. And that anyway, there's something I think we need to remember, that is that uncertainty and mistakes are part of the customer services. And we need to learn with that idea. I mean, for example, an organization can create different scenarios and can try to understand and create scenarios for every possible customer inquiry. But there's always a level of uncertainty, just like we learned from with COVID, and we have to learn and deal with that uncertainty, and that's part of customer services. That doesn't mean that customer services will worsen the level or that the satisfaction will be low, but we need to be flexible enough to deal with different scenarios, and of course, working from home creates more uncertainty, and we'll have to look the way to deal with that.
Excellent. Thank you. Stuart, do you have a similar view, different view? Do you agree? Do you disagree? And then we'll take a question as well from Andrew in the chat. But let's first go to Stu with the same question.
Yeah, sure. I mean, our research shows that actually that grace period that customers gave organisations, you know, the fact that they were taking a bit longer to answer the phone, that actually disappeared after about the first 3 or 4 months. And after that, people expected organisations to have sorted this out and got back to delivering great level of service. You know, personally, I don't really mind if there's a dog barking in the background, as long as my call gets answered quickly and the person, you know, that deals with my issue has empathy and understands who I am and what my problems are. So I don't think that the noise in the background or anything like that's the problem. It's as long as the level of service is being delivered, then that's all that matters. What we do have to think about is that when people are working at home, they, you know, the tool sets that they have at their disposal to have information at their fingertips, often they're working on small screens, you know, they don't have the dual screens they have in the contact center. We need to make sure we're designing experiences for agents that allow them to have that right level of information to have, you know, to serve the customer and not navigate their way through lots of different systems, and also have the ability to virtually put their hand up and get some help if they need it, if there's a particularly, you know, complex issue. So there's still a few problems to solve there, but for me, home working is here to stay. These are all solvable problems. It just comes down to design and you know, thinking about the customer journey.
Excellent. Good. Thank you, Stu. And quickly, is one question from Andrew. Predictions have been made for years that email as a channel will virtually disappear and be replaced by digital channels. How do we do that? So how can we do that without impacting the customer experience and frustrating customers who might have loved email? So how do we get rid of email is the question in a very blunt version.
For me, email is so often a self-inflicted channel. You know, you go to a website and there's a form to fill in, or you send the customer an email, and guess what? They'll respond to it. So, you know, simply by nudging the customer towards a messaging channel, asynchronous messaging channel, where they're going to get a quicker response and it probably will give them the information they need. I think, you know, service design is the way to start to shift people's behavior away from email towards more suitable channels. That's my view anyway. Federico?
My view is that today, I think that the best organization is the one that effectively deals with customer queries and problems. So in the end, the most important thing is solving the issue that the customer is having, no matter how. The idea is getting that issue solved. And of course, providing choice too. I think that if you provide choice to customer, if you provide like good omnichannel capabilities and more choices, that means voice, that means chat, that means email, the better. But I think that, for example, if you're providing a good proper chat or chatbot, you know, option instead of email, I know that some customers will prefer, and it's better to also provide the idea of the option of an email. But as long as you can solve that main issue, I think that shouldn't be a major concern or a major problem for businesses.
The only thing I would add to that is that it is much easier to converse with the customer using technology, using AI, if it's on a chat channel versus an email. You know, you can deliver a level of automation, you can establish intent, you can establish emotion, you can, you know, react much more quickly and often in a more customer friendly way through the messaging channel. So that's the, you know, that's the advantage I think they have.
Totally agree. I totally agree with that. Yes.
Fantastic. Looking at the time, guys, a couple of minutes left. So can I give you each the maximum 60 seconds to give your most, let's say, spectacular prediction for the mid or the longer term? What are customers going to demand from us when providing a customer experience to continue to have their loyalty and obviously their business or to score a high NPS, if that still exists at that point. So what is your personal prediction for the future, what customers want us to change in the nearby future?
I leave Stu to answer that first.
That's
a tough one. I think the whole thing about channels, and I think we're just going to get away from that. Every virtual customer experience will be delivered through a screen, and it will include a bit of messaging, a bit of AI, a bit of video if needs be, but it will all be channeled through a screen. And the other recipient of that, the agent in the call center, will just need to have much better tools to be able to quickly share content, to push information back to the customer, to have information at their fingertips, to deliver a really empathetic experience and understand who the customer is and why they're contacting. And we've got all of the building blocks are in place there to do that. We just got to bring it all together, and that's what customers are looking for.
I'll give you 60 seconds, Frederic, to think about it.
Sure. No, I think that there will be higher expectations on businesses improving the digital customer journeys. I think that the digital is the key here as well. And with this, I refer to two main things. One is that, this shift to digital will take part of customer journeys out of the contact center by, for example, reducing the volumes of the contact center, because many customers will just deal with a chatbot over a website, and this will reduce a little bit the volumes of the contact center, which might even create a more effective CX in the end. And also this, I think, provides an excellent opportunity for contact centers, because digital provide lots of data about customers, and will use will capture these real-time insights into engagement, can improve, for example, decision making around CX issues. For example, agents can learn what are their customers thinking, what's the history of this customer, and this can actually enhance also the customer experience in the contact center. So I think that customers are expecting for the future a better use of the digital channels, better use of the digital tools, and also I think that contact centers and companies in general, we have a great opportunity to actually enhance their customer experience by leveraging the capabilities that digital provides to them, which is basically a lot of data and information.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Both Federico from Argentina, Buenos Aires, and Stu locally, I think from Devon. Thank you very much for, first of all your contributions to discussion today, your opinion, and discussing this let's say very interesting, difficult topic, how are our customers going to change over the next couple of years post the pandemic, and how do we prepare ourselves to continue or even improve the customer service that we will provide. Thank you very much for your help. We're going to wrap up the session, everybody. Thank you very much for the questions as well, Andy and James and others for listening. Hope you found it interesting. And we're on now to the next session that starts at 3 o'clock, for which I wish you all the joy and interesting discussion as well. Thank you very much, and goodbye for now.
Thank you.